The movie opens with a man sneaking around near a wreckage, moving carefully. Nearby, there's a huge building trying to get out of the city. When he looks back, the entire city, the whole skyline, is covered in a massive smoke cloud. The city is being wiped out. Now, the man has finally reached the wilderness. There's an old, collapsed building over there. And inside, 2 little kids and no mother in sight. How is this man supposed to raise them alone? Days pass. Time keeps moving. 15 years go by. These boys are all grown up now. One of the boys, the younger one, named Thomas, is calm and reserved. But the older one? He's different. He's restless. You can already tell, he's the troublemaker, went to explore. He is Joseph. He didn't even realize how late it was. He rushes back home, running. He slams the door shut behind him. Safe inside. These boys should be sticking together. The whole world beyond that border is gone. But even then they fight. But when it comes to playing, they always play together. Just a little later, they go back to normal. Someone's at the door. They freeze. Thomas is afraid. He's writing it down. The father and Joseph, both of them are holding onto the door, making sure it doesn't break open. And then, the knocking stops. They cautiously check outside. But there's nothing. No one is there. These attacks are happening only at night. In the morning, they were checking the doors. Most of the doors are damaged. So they're cutting wood in order to repair the doors. There's an old car, and Dad somehow fixed it. But for driving, Dad keeps explaining. Joseph sits behind. He already knows how to drive. But Dad is explaining to Thomas to drive. After explaining all this, somehow, the driving lessons were completed. Dad says, "There is work to do, right? Take your younger brother with you, do the work I tell you, and come back." He sends them off like that. Both of them take the car and leave. On the way, Joseph said, "Drop me off here. I'll go to the farm, but don't tell Dad anything. Just come back later, pick me up, and we'll go home together." Thomas agrees. When Joseph reaches the farm, there's an aunt and an uncle here, and they have a beautiful daughter named Charlotte. The reason he comes here is only to see that girl. He talks to her, interacts with her, and experiences those teenage feelings. On this side, a ship is docked. It has arrived to deliver food and collect some necessary supplies. But when he gets there, something feels strange. All around, there are large, unusual things. When he looks closely, he sees cockroaches, kind of insect infestation. The insects are escaping. They are spreading everywhere, crawling all over the place, climbing up surfaces, and scattering in all directions. Few hours later, Joseph doesn't know how much time is left. By measuring the position of the sun, he estimates how much time is left to reach home. He is speeding back. Between the farm and his house, there is a large trench. He decides to jump over it. It seems like there is a small rock, like a stepping stone. But when he steps on it, his leg hurts. On the other side of the trench, his head hits another rock. His body bends into a V shape, and he falls straight into the trench. Here, Thomas waits, hoping his brother will return, but he never comes back. Few moments later, Thomas goes back alone without his brother. He explains everything that happened. "Okay, come inside the house," the father says. "Please do not leave the house under any circumstances. I'm going to find your brother. No matter what, do not step outside until I return," the father orders before leaving. The boy sits inside, locking himself in, learning to stay alone. The father packs only what is necessary and sets out with a bag, carrying a knife as well. His dog follows him. When he arrives, he sees Joseph lying inside the trench. Thankfully, he is not seriously injured. The father realizes he needs to climb down. The dog, sniffing around, finds something and barks toward the trench. Using a lighter, he flicks the flame on and off, trying to get a better look inside the pit. At home, Thomas was sleeping. Suddenly, something approaches from the side. He grabs hold of something tightly, and in the next moment, his grip loosens. Out of nowhere, a box falls onto the creature. The creatures want to escape from that place. Actually, Thomas was not sleeping. It's a trap to capture the creature. By then, morning had already arrived. Thomas went outside in search of his father and brother. They rushed here in the vehicle. They brought him home and laid him on the bed. For now, rest is the only relief. Because there was no medicine available at home. They were tying bandages on their father's injured hands. Meanwhile, the box was accidentally opened. The creature, afraid of sunlight, scurried under a cot to hide. Thomas grabs whatever he can find. Instead of hitting its face, he lands a deep stab on it back. He locks it in place. Then, Joseph picks up a sickle. With one swift motion, he decapitates its head. The creature is dead, but Thomas doesn't feel any satisfaction. What he was really thinking was about that creature. What he actually wanted was to capture it alive and study it. But because Joseph acted in haste, it ended up dead. Joseph, in search of medicine, he went to the farm. But Charlotte's parents refused to help. But Charlotte takes the medicine from the hidden stash and hands it to Joseph. "Thanks," he says, and runs off from the farm with the medicine. At the same time, someone at the rifle shed stops him. "Why are you running? Looks like you stole something and are trying to escape." When asked what he stole, he replies, "It's just medicine. But I didn't steal it. That girl gave it to me." But the guards refuse to listen. They capture him and tie him up. They declare that the thief must be punished, and one of them aims his gun, saying, "I'll shoot his leg so he can never run again." He takes careful aim with the gun. Just as the gunman is about to pull the trigger, the creature suddenly attacks the gunman. Meanwhile, hearing the noise, Charlotte's parents rush out of the farmhouse to see what's happening. A terrifying creature suddenly attacks them. The father, holding a burning torch, waves it wildly. But the creature doesn't just attack him, it goes after the mother as well. It climbs onto her and locks her in its grip as she screams. The father desperately grabs the creature's legs, trying to pull it away, while the mother, in terror, attempts to flee. At the same time, Charlotte wakes up over there, gathering some courage, grabs a gun and steps outside to see what's happening. Hearing strange noises, she rushes to her mother's room. The moment she sees what's inside, she freezes in horror. The creature has finished devouring. It raises its head and looks directly at the girl. Meanwhile, the others are still fighting against the creatures. Joseph struggles as much as he can, trying to break the wooden restraints, desperately trying to free himself, and somehow he releases his hands and starts running towards his home. At home, Thomas gives his father a loving kiss and then, hearing some noise outside, goes to check. At first, he thinks it's a creature trying to get in, but it turns out to be a human hand instead. It's Joseph with Charlotte. Thomas rushes to his garage, gathers all sorts of tools and supplies, and grabs a lot of petrol. They load everything onto a vehicle and prepare to move. Not knowing what the plan is, Joseph still decides to follow his lead. Then they bring a large fridge inside. Thomas starts pouring petrol onto the wooden planks, setting up a mini trap. Meanwhile, the creatures are closing in on their father's room. The door is almost completely pushed in. As they carry the fridge into the next room, their father stumbles, exhausted. It looks like he has been fighting off a creature that made its way inside. His entire body is covered in blood. Grabbing his gun, he starts shooting at the creatures emerging from the ground, killing them all. Making final adjustments to the trap. There are countless creatures around them. Their father understands this too. So, for the sake of his children, he locks the outer door from the inside. Only after realizing that his kids had grown strong enough to survive on their own, he made this final decision. Accepting his fate, their father steps back. The three of them get inside the fridge chamber. The trap Thomas set outside now caught fire and started exploding. As the creatures ran towards them, Going died affected by the explosion. Moments later, they are coming out from the fridge. But the creatures are still alive and chasing them even in the burning stage. But halfway, the creatures fell down and died. As soon as the sun rises, they decided to go in search of other survivors in order to build strength, and the screen fades out here. Subscribe for more videos like this.